We are back from the break, and we wanted to thank all the mothers out there today. It is Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to my wife, to my mother, to my sister-in-law, and to all you other mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day. Okay, so what I also wanted to talk about...
Are you having a stroke or something?
I am
Why
not.
Are you talking like that?
I am not. I'm changing things up, Jim. I'm changing the vibe of the show. But I also wanted to talk about if you get hurt on the job. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, I had a attorney friend of mine, Jim Marisi, in here, and he helps people who get hurt, whether it's on the job or in a car accident or something like that. And so, if something like that happens to you and you're looking for help, I'd say contact Jim Marisi, and you can call me, and I'll put you in touch with him. And call me at 312-664-6649. And if you have tax problems, you call Opem Tax Resolutions. That's what we do. We help people with tax problems. And you can call them at 312-664-6649.
Well, 3 is a company because, ladies and gentlemen, just going to say again, if we don't bring up if one of your questions on the show, give a call to that same number. Let's do it again. Me together. 312-664-6649. Yes, if you call that number, we can answer your question right here on the show.
I'm going to give Debbie some kudos because Debbie came up with a good idea. I'm going to set up a hotline, a IRS Radio Hour hotline, and I'm going to do it this week. So next week we'll have a number for you to call, and you can leave a message, and you just leave the message what your question is. But remember, you can always go to Chicago Tax Team too and chat. Put it on the chat. So there's lots of ways for you to get in touch with us if you have a question, any legal question, and I'll try to answer it. Because if I can't answer it, I know a lot of good lawyers out there who can answer it, and I want to help you. That's what we do here. We help people. One way we're going to help people today is through our next segment.
Is this going to be in your book?
This is going to no. This particular segment won't be in my book, but
you have a book, right?
I do have a book, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Let's do the intro for this segment.
I forgot there's an intro.
It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
I actually just wanted to listen to the music because I like it so much. Jimmy, not so much.
It's too old, man. It's too dated.
I like the dated sound of it. I don't know. I just do. I go home and listen to my 33 records. Okay, I really don't, but I could.
Oh, you don't, Danny.
Okay, so the blog segment this week. What I'm getting a lot of calls off, and this is kind of something that I can't really help people with, except for to tell you what's going on, because it's not really the IRS, and these are these scam calls that are happening that people keep getting. I get probably 5 or 6 calls a week from people. Yesterday, I got a guy called, and we're telling him, "No, sir, it's not the IRS. Believe me." They said, "Oh, they said they tell me that they're going to arrest me. They're bringing criminal charges against me." And then they told me to go to my nearest police station and turn myself in if I didn't pay. And he was really afraid. And I told him, "No, this is a scam, sir. Don't worry about it. It's not really the IRS." And he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes, I'm sure." And I hung up the phone. And 3 minutes later, he called back and said, "Are you sure? They just called again?" And that's when they told him to go to the police station and turn himself in. So, no, they're just scaring you. That's not the way the IRS works. They're not going to tell you to. And then I was on, I think it was last week, that I called on David Hochberg's show. He asked me to call. It was on last Saturday because he had to call too. Now, a couple of months before that, I was on his show and we were talking about the scam. And while we were on the show, the scammers called him and he put it on. He put it on the show. So just to,
oh wow,
we're
talking about timing.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. But so I called last week because he got the call. And what they told him to do was they told get this now. And he says, "I swear this is true." And that sounds just like David Hochberg. "I swear that's true." Okay. And that they told him to go to a Rite Aid, a CVS pharmacy, or a Walgreens and buy some gift cards. And then they told, these are also known as iTunes cards. And on the back of the iTunes cards, there'll be a code, and you call back with the code, and then you'll pay your IRS debt through these iTunes cards.
We'd like one gift card to Olive Garden, one to Outback, one iTunes card.
And make sure you get one of the AMC theaters, too.
Put them in an envelope and leave them outside the CVS.
Swing them over your head.
I have a story about this. I was with somebody where they got a call from the, I'm doing the little quotations, IRS. It wasn't. And we had a little fun with them. Yeah, we knew that it was fake.
I know.
So we call the guy back and we say, well, what's the badge number and the guy, or the name? So we call back and we talk to him, and then we start kind of playing with them. Well, they had a few vulgar statements for us because they realized that
you were toying them.
Yeah. Oh, we had a little shouting match between each other.
I'm sure that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, my advice to you is if you get these fake calls from the IRS, play with them. That's what I say.
But
go play with them.
Again, people call my office. If you Google IRS, my name comes up. So people sometimes think I am the IRS. So they're calling me now, and maybe that's why I get so many of these calls a week.
Well, I have a question for you.
Well, go ahead.
What if it really is the IRS calling? Now, I'm not saying let's say the IRS really does call me. Should I handle this myself, or should I? The
answer is I never think it's a good idea for you to talk to the IRS ever. Okay, well,
what should I do?
And this remember we talked about this before on the show. Where they say, "Oh, I have nothing to hide. Why wouldn't I want to talk to the IRS?" Because they think you have something to hide, and they're going to treat you kind of like a criminal, right? So I always say, and especially if you do owe the IRS money, don't talk to them. Tell them I want you to talk to my lawyer. And my lawyer's name is Steve Leahy, right? Because I want you to call. And then give him my number, 312-664-6649, and then hang up the phone and then call me right away and say, I need to hire you because I just told the IRS you were my lawyer. So then come on down and talk to me. But usually I tell people it's not a good idea to talk to the IRS yourself. Now, sometimes they do call. They don't generally call on the phone, though. I mean, I have seen it happen. Usually they call just to try to locate somebody because they don't know where you're living, so they'll call around and they'll ask for somebody, but they're not really looking to talk to you and tell you what you owe over the phone. They do visit your home. The IRS will come out to your house and knock on the door and introduce themselves to you.
Well, even in that case, should I tell them I'd like them to speak to my lawyer?
Absolutely. You always have a right to talk to a lawyer. Because once you lawyer up, and this is, is
there going to be a scam where they come to my house? Has there been an?
I haven't seen that, but it's But even though if the IRS came to your house and said, "Give me money," they're wrong. That's not the way it works. They would never ask you, "Give me a check right now." They'd never do that. And one of the things why they're asking for those iTunes cards is because they can't track them. Because, right, if I give them a check, they can track the check. They know where it goes. They know they can track them down and find out who's doing the scam. They don't want to be found out, right? So I saw one scam that they told the guy, they kept him on the phone while he went to the store to get a cashier's check or Western Union or something. They kept him on the phone. Why? They got a hot one and they don't want you to leave. They don't want you to hang up and then they call someone like me and say, "Is this real?" And I'll tell them, "No, it's not. It's a scam." Okay, so there's lots of this out there now. I don't know why. I don't know if it's more than ever, but
you know what I noticed too?
I am hearing a lot
of them are from overseas.
Yes, well, that's David Hochberg was trying to do their accent. He said, "This was the accent. I don't know."
We had a guy who had an Indian accent,
and that's what he said too. So because they are overseas, because then you can't track them. If they're here in America, we could track them and we track them down and put them in jail. But if they're overseas, then how are our authorities going to track them down and find them? They're not going to. That's why they're doing it. Now, what this tells me is people are falling for it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it so much. Right? It's like the guy that you see every day at the same place asking for money, a panhandle of money. If he didn't get any money at that place, he wouldn't be there every day. So it's kind of the same thing. They wouldn't be making these calls if nobody ever gave him any money.
You mean the guy that you were given the not a real the little tokens from Chuck E. Cheese to, and you thought they were dollars?
Stop it.
Long story, but it's not true. But it was a funny coincidence.
I usually give away dollar coins to people, but anyway, that's a different story. So tell what would happen. What should people do if they have a question about the IRS, Jim?
Call Jim Leahy. No. Ladies and gentlemen, just remember, if you want to stay local, you need to be local, and this is the guy to do it. Opem Tax Resolutions, 312-664-6649. 49
Don't
or
fall
visit
for the
them at chicagotaxteam.com. Listen, Attorney Leahy, don't fall for it.
Don't fall for
I
scam.
suggest you play around with them. That's just me. They're pulling your leg, you pull theirs. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of which, we have to take a quick commercial break, but stay tuned. More IRS Radio Hour coming at you on AM 560.
The answer.